everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. I'm back. Gonna be back. I want to get to some kind of really big news that just kind of popped here late Saturday afternoon. As we got a commitment from the #1 high school football player in America in the class of 2025. And for people who maybe were doing stuff, watching college hoops, whatever, this is the week we get the All-American games. Earlier in the week, we had the Under Armour game, and on Saturday, we had the U.S. Army All-American game, where, of course, there's a couple players that are still in the class of 2024 making their final decisions, but also a bunch of kids from the class of 2025 made their announcements as well. Bring it up because there was no more important player that committed on Saturday than, as I just mentioned, the #1 high school player in the class of 2025, just finished his junior year of high school football. That is Bryce Underwood, a quarterback from Bellevue, Michigan. Really good player. I mean, you don't have to be a scouting guru. You don't have to be Mel Kiper or Todd McShay to see that this kid has special talent. Just finished his junior year, 40 touchdown passes, and on Saturday, again, he made his college decision. Well, I bring it up because probably about, month to 8, whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, he puts out a final, 5 or 6. Colorado's in there, Alabama's in there, LSU, Michigan, etc. But it really felt like this was an LSU versus Michigan battle. And on Saturday afternoon, Bryce Underwood, the #1 high school player in the class of 2025, the #1 quarterback in the class of 2025, made his commitment, and he chose the LSU Tigers, baby. That's right. Now, I just happen to have an LSU hat here. I'm not going to put it on. I just did my hair. But LSU gets a commitment from the #1 high school quarterback in the class of 2025, and I am here to tell you this is really big, and I think is continuing some major momentum for Brian Kelly at a time when, frankly, he needs it in Baton Rouge. Okay. So Bryce Underwood, first of all, what I would say, and I say this all the time, I know my strengths and weaknesses. I am not a quarterback guru, scouting expert. Okay. I'll leave that to Jordan Palmer. I'll leave that to, again, Todd McShay, Mel Kiper Jr., whatever. But all you got to do is flip on the tape of this kid, and you can see immediately how talented he is, how good he is, and the instant impact that he can have when he gets to college football, not this coming fall, but the next one, okay? So this is a kid, big kid, about 6'3", 6'4", big arms, super accurate, easy throwing motion. You turn on the tape, just flicks the wrist, it gets rid of the ball quick, smart, athletic when he needs to be. The stats back it up, by the way. How about this? This past year, his junior year, 40 touchdown passes, just 2 interceptions. Not very bad at all. Also 7 rushing touchdowns as a junior. Had, I think, 32, 33 passing touchdowns, as a sophomore. Played in 3 straight Michigan State title games. Has won 2 of them. And this kid is special. You know who he actually reminds me of? Surprise, surprise. Reminds me of the last guy that we saw play quarterback for LSU during the regular season, Jaden Daniels. Yeah, the guy that won the Heisman Trophy. I think he's got a little Shedeur Sanders in him as well. Again, big, strong arms, smart, gets rid of the ball, etc. Athletic, doesn't really show off the wheels when he doesn't have to. But listen, Jaden Daniels had over 1,000 yards rushing this year, so obviously showed that he is capable as well. But really good player, and ultimately going to LSU, I don't think to me is all that much of a surprise. He is from Michigan. Michigan weirdly has struggled to recruit the quarterback position in its own state. Dante Moore 2 years ago commits to Oregon, then goes to UCLA, then goes back to Oregon during the portal cycle. Obviously, this past year, CJ Carr, the grandson of Lloyd Carr, is headed to Notre Dame. And now Bryce Underwood. It came down to Michigan and LSU, but all the intel was that he wanted to play in the SEC. He wanted to compete against what he deems to be the best conference in college football. And so LSU gets their man. And let's talk about just big picture, what this means for LSU, but also why I think this is a really important win for Brian Kelly at, frankly, a really important time for the LSU head coach. Okay. So I was thinking about this with LSU. So first of all, for people who don't follow LSU on a day-to-day basis, did feel like there was a little bit of kind of like negative energy about LSU, especially in the middle of the season. You obviously have a national championship caliber offense, but the defense is struggling. I mean, not only was Jaden Daniels incredible this year, but I was looking at a mock draft on on Saturday morning. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, is projected as a top 10 pick right now. Number 2 wide receiver, potentially off the board behind only Marvin Harrison Jr. Brian Thomas, another wide receiver, is projected as a first rounder. So the talent was there on offense, but on defense, it was so bad that it kept you from reaching your goals. Remember, this was a season where coming in, people picked LSU to win the national championship. Now, I didn't. I picked Michigan, neither here nor there. But I bring it up because people loved LSU coming into the season. And you lose to Florida State early. The defense just gets embarrassed in that Ole Miss game late September, early October. And then from there, it just felt like there was a lot of negative energy around the program. There's just not a lot of positive buzz really from week 1 till about week 9 or 10 when Jaden Daniels took off. Like, I was thinking about it. I mean, you think about all the teams that we talked about this year. Alabama and Georgia in the SEC. You know, Texas and Oklahoma are coming. We talked about Ole Miss is obviously on the rise. Missouri's obviously on the rise. And it's like LSU was just kind of there. And then it felt like really late in the season, they started to kind of change the energy. Jaden Daniels had 606 yards of total offense against Florida, and they certainly closed strong, winning 10 games. But you talk about a month where really I think the Jaden Daniels Heisman Trophy really kind of gave this program some juice, and they have been riding that wave since. Okay. So first of all, Bryce Underwood, by the way, I'm either going to call him Blair Underwood, Bryce Young. Forgive me if I've done it already. I may do it again. Okay. But Bryce Underwood really kind of caps a really, really, really nice start to the class of 2025 for LSU. So for people who don't follow this stuff, earlier in the week, there's a kid named Harlem Berry. Some believe he's the number 1 running back in America, also from the state of Louisiana, class of 2025. He committed to LSU earlier this week. By the way, Decorian Moore, the number 1 wide receiver in America from Texas, is committed to LSU. And so you look at it right now, LSU, this moment right now, the class of 2025, so going into their senior year, number 1 quarterback, number 1 player in America, Bryce Underwood. I almost called him Bryce Young because I got in my own head there. You have the number 1 running back in America and the number 1 wide receiver in America, who is also a top 5 player according to 24/7 Sports. So Heisman Trophy, strong start to the class of 2025. And I do think it's worth noting, really strong finish to the class of 2024. And again, I understand there was a lot of negativity, especially early to middle of the season for LSU. But that 2024 class, I think, is really, I don't want to say the first one, but it is such an important class for this reason. The recruiting of Louisiana was spectacular, okay? So the 2024 class, we're already getting ahead to 2025, but to go back to 2024 for a minute, how about this? Of the top 11 players in the state of Louisiana, 10 of them committed to LSU, most notably, most recently, Dominic McKinley, number 1 defensive lineman, in one of the best in the country, but the best in the state, had been committed to A&M, opened up his recruitment after Jimbo Fisher decided not to go, and now he is going to LSU as well. So you start talking about the things that Brian Kelly needs to do to get LSU back to the level that every LSU fan expects, which is compete for national championships. He's doing it. Strong start to 2025, but I think as importantly, a strong finish to 2024. And what's key is to really just restock and replenish this roster. I think it's easy to forget. Remember, he took over a program with 39 scholarship players by the time LSU got to a bowl game following the departure of Ed Orgeron. Some guys went pro, some guys transferred. Frankly, I think Brian Kelly told some guys not to come back. I'm not saying he forced them out, but maybe he forced them out. 39 players. And so it took time. I said it at the time. He overachieved in year 1. I think this year was a little bit of a regression, but I think you're starting to see that build back up. 2024 is strong. 2025 is off to a great start. Obviously, now Bryce Underwood is recruiting on your behalf. So I expect that class to finish in the top 5 nationally. I mean, you have an elite quarterback. You're locking down the state. You're getting the best players. So all positive vibes here. And then I think most notably, the other thing that we have not talked about yet On Friday night, we officially found out who LSU's next defensive coordinator is going to be. Blake Baker from Missouri is coming back home. He was an assistant at LSU a few years ago. He is now coming back as the defensive coordinator at LSU. This is big, okay? So Missouri's defense had struggled. Missouri's defense had not been great. Well, they hire Blake Baker. They make him the highest paid coordinator, period, highest paid assistant coach in college football this year. 21 points per game is what Missouri allowed. 336 yards per game, which was fifth in the SEC, but significant improvement across the board there. And I think if you're an LSU fan, that's all you're hoping for is significant improvement of the defense, because if the defense gets better, the offense has already figured it out, and you're in nothing but good shape. So I give Brian Kelly credit. I know it's been kind of an up and down year, differing opinions on him, but he did exactly what needs to be done over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And oh, by the way, shout out to Bryce Underwood, who is now an LSU Tiger. And I think this class in 2025 is going to be monstrous. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos, new episodes going up every single day, every single week. A lot of college football, a lot of college basketball. Make sure to subscribe. Talk to you soon.